Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Dear Future with Wash. I'm your co-founder, Ishani Bakshi, and today with me I have Isha, a pre-medical student at NYU, specifically in global public health and media. Hi, Isha.
Hi.
So we're really excited to have you today. We have a bunch of questions about your majors and your experiences at NYU and even in high school. So first of all, your major, it's global public health, media, culture, and communication. What's this major about? Why do you choose it? It's something very unique that I haven't heard of before. So can you tell us more about your thought process behind that?
So it's a double major in global public health and media culture and communication. And I initially came into NYU with the MCC, the Media Culture and Communication program, that begins in Paris. So my last semester was my first semester at NYU from January to May, and I began in Paris. The program is called MCC in Paris, and it's one of NYU's most famous programs, but only a few students usually get to experience that. And because I always wanted to study abroad in France, and I had like a side interest in media when I was in high school, and I kind of tried to use that when getting into colleges to diversify my experience in college, so it wasn't only health and medicine. And then when I came into NYU, I found out that I can actually double major in global public health, and that's another really, like famous pairing at NYU, because they go together really well. Both of them need you to study abroad and observe other cultures in order to take your classes and see things from a global perspective. And I always had an interest in global public health as well. So I was able to find common ground with this double major that NYU was offering.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. Something that I'd definitely be interested in the future because I also want to travel abroad. So speaking of the NYU Paris experience, I see that you're part of the NYU Paris Tandem and ParisCast, which are different like programs for French or like the France cohort of NYU. So can you tell us more about that? And how has Paris and work and living in NYU France shaped your college experience?
So NYU Tandem was this program that was set up by my French professor in Paris, actually, where we got paired with a French student, a French university student. There were other universities in that same area where NYU Paris is located. So I got matched with a really sweet girl, and we were able to talk about our experiences, and I was able to learn a bit more about like French culture through her. We only really talked online because we didn't get time to meet up, but I know a lot of people in the tandem program were able to meet up and make friends. So it was still a really rewarding experience that way. And ParisCast was a podcast that the NYU Paris community started to just talk about our experiences because it's obviously it's Paris. There was a lot to do, a lot to see. And going into like how Paris shaped my college experience and honestly my entire life, it was an extremely rewarding experience learning, having to like step outside of a culture that I'm very familiar with because my hometown is in New Jersey. So I've just always been in the New York area. It's not like I've made a very big move by coming to NYU geographically. Going to France meant that I had to eat different food, speak a different language. It was considered rude to just walk into a cafe, obviously, and assume that they know English. And like slowing down, Paris is a very slow city compared to New York, and those cultural differences kind of change how I lead my life even now. It kind of like carried with me, and having to learn French and being able to live there and learn it made it a very rewarding experience that, I still want to keep learning the language even though I'm back here.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. Fun question. What was your favorite like Paris hotspot? So like for anyone going in the future, what would you recommend?
Hotspot as in like something to do or like what do you mean? Because
What
there
was
was
your
a lot to
favorite
do
thing
in
in
the
Paris?
city.
Like, or like maybe top two or three favorite things.
I would say I really liked so one of the biggest things in Paris are like the museums, and obviously we think of the Louvre. I mean the Louvre is great. But my favorite one was Musée l'Orangerie, and it was impressionist and post-impressionist art pieces, and it's a small museum, but it's a great experience because it's in a very famous garden in Paris. That leads me to my second thing. I would say that if you're going in the warmer months, which I do recommend, we started the semester in the colder months, and it was a little tough because it gets very cold there. But in the warmer months, I really recommend the gardens in Paris. There's so many, but there's definitely some bigger ones that I recommend. And I would say the area around NYU Paris, so it's in the Latin Quarter, that entire area is amazing. It's obviously tourist heavy because it's famous for its architecture and its restaurants and whatnot. But studying there was a great experience. And the restaurants and cafes, like there's new things to see all the time. There's so many little shops, and you can also meet people there. So it's definitely my favorite.
That all sounds really fun. Now, moving a bit more towards your public health aspect of things, in your LinkedIn, it states that you're on the NYU Grey Matters journal. Can you tell us more about what that is? I get that's a neuroscience journal. What do you guys do? And as your role as editor, what's kind of your role and responsibilities? And who would you recommend a similar role for? What kind of students would be interested in this kind of thing?
So the undergraduate neuroscience journal is just newly started at NYU. I believe it was pretty new when I came into the school, or at least when I was enrolled, because I did have a gap semester considering I started in the spring and I graduated in June 2022. So fall 2022, I didn't have any academic, like I wasn't in college, but I was able to join this club because I was in the area geographically. So that was really interesting. And the the journal focuses on like a variety of topics in the field of neuroscience, and we kind of get the freedom, like writers. I'm not on the writing team, on the editorial team, but the writers get the freedom to choose their topic, and it can honestly be from anything ranging from neuroplasticity to like a very specific drug, even like personality types, things like that, just anything that helps us, and usually relatable topics that people can read about. And the point of the journal is to bring these topics in a more simplified manner to the common public at NYU and beyond NYU. And it's definitely for people who are interested in neuroscience. But like I said, the topics aren't like very like they don't have to be very science heavy. I'm not a neuroscience major. I have an interest in neuroscience, but I'm not a major and I don't have to be in order to be a part of it. So I feel like students who have an interest in medicine or just like, like mind and brain thought processes and things like that, they would definitely enjoy being on this team. They're very sweet people. All of the teams work together, and they have meetings where we all sit together. Like they usually order pizza. It's great. Like it's also a good time to socialize. And as an editor, I usually read the written piece once it's done. And I'm a general editor, so there's three types of editors. There's a lay review, there's scientific review, and then there's general. So general just as you can tell from the name, it goes over everything. So I kind of just I have they gave us like a checklist, all of the general editors, and we just have to go through it for all of the articles. But we work with one writer, which is really good because you can talk to the writer directly, and you can like discuss with them how you want to yeah, how you want the article to be shaped and whatnot. But yeah, it's not too stressful for sure. It's definitely something that someone who's like, double majoring, or I'm not minoring in anything because I already have so many credits to fulfill as a double major, but it's something that people can fit onto their plate for sure if they really enjoy it.
Yeah, that sounds cool, the whole idea. On a similar vein, I saw that in high school, and I can't really match up the dates, but you did a lot of some research and medical internships. And can you tell us more about that? How do you find these opportunities? How did they help you in your college career, etc.?
So my high school was it was a magnet school. It was an academy for allied health and biomedical sciences. So we had a very extensive lab work to do from day one, and we were taking classes from the Rutgers School of Health Professions starting at age 14. So it was very intensive for sure, but I don't regret any part of it at all because after coming out of that high school, I have a lot of experience, like hands-on experience in medicine and research, and just like labs in general. And the research internship that I did was actually as a part of a capstone project that we were required to do. It's like a capstone research project. It could be any project question that we wanted to research. We just had to go over it with the professor who was in charge of the project. And then we had to go out on our own and find a specialist in the field to intern with. So my research internship was with a pediatrician in Edison, and she was able to like it. You know, she allowed us to shadow her at first, and then we were able to distribute surveys that we'd written ourselves to collect data on. It was a pediatrician, so the patients were children, and the parents would fill out the surveys. The information was collected on the children's growth and development, and also their how they were given their nutrition as infants, either through breastfeeding or bottle feeding. And the whole point of the project was to evaluate the impact of breastfeeding versus bottle feeding on child growth and development. And it was definitely a very multifaceted research project, but it was a very enjoyable experience to speak to parents, kids, and the doctor was really sweet and supporting too. She actually has a reputation for helping students from my school with their capstone project. So that was really helpful. And when I went to Paris, I actually began working on another research project, another independent one. It's not a lab project, just like this other one wasn't, but it's evaluating the differences in food culture between New York City and Paris, so US and France overall, and how that impacts obesity rates in the two countries. And a lot of the research methods, like how to write a survey, how to do a literature review, how to speak to people when you have to give them a survey so you're not scaring them away, like getting their consent. Those things that I learned definitely carried over so that I didn't need extra help on that now that I'm in college and I was doing it alone in Paris.
That sounds really cool. I love the topic about the different food cultures because you definitely see all these videos about the Europeans are doing much better than the Americans are regarding like
Mhm.
obesity and stuff.
They
Can you
are.
explain more on that? If you want, if you're allowed to, on the topic.
I'm sorry?
Can you elaborate more on the research topic? Just I'm just curious, like what the general idea is.
Oh, on the research I was doing in Paris.
Yeah.
So in Paris, I suppose my research, like the part of my research I was doing there was the literature review and like cultural observation, because it's slightly sociological, the topic, because it's food culture. So I was doing a lot of cultural observation myself, which would just be like, paying attention when you're sitting at a cafe. How long do people usually sit in their seats? If they're speaking English, they don't count because now, you know, they're clearly not following French values. But a lot of the French people, they would be sitting for hours. And by the end of the semester, I was one of them, sitting for hours at a cafe, eating very slowly. They also, because servers aren't tipped there, they don't, you know, like they're not always coming at you like, oh, are you done? Are you done? So you're able to sit and enjoy your food. So the French seem to see food as an experience, and that was like a very baseline thing with a baseline concept with my research. And now that I'm in New York, obviously the culture is very similar to where I grew up, but being in New York City, which is a very fast-paced city, um, it's easy to see how we tend to think of food as fuel. And that seems to be like the basis of the issue here. Seeing food as fuel isn't necessarily helping us, it's not fueling us, because when we're not taking our time to think about what we're eating, we tend to eat just anything. And that leads to a multitude of health issues. And the ones that I'm focusing on is obesity. Obesity rates are definitely lower in France as of the research that's done right now, but I'm also going to be calculating that. The surveys haven't been passed out officially just yet because I had to develop them once seeing what I was like, you know, once seeing the culture in Paris. And I'm actually in the process of that now. So I'll be distributing them here and then in Paris with the help of the NYU Paris campus, actually.
That's really cool. Yeah, I love what you said about how their food's like an experience while here it's like eat, you know, like
Yeah.
that's really important. The last thing about yourself that I want to ask you was your business. I hope I'm pronouncing this right, the Worldlier.
The Wordlier, yeah.
Wordlier, yeah. So I saw you're selling like I'm just like book selling online business and it just seems really cool to me because I love reading. I also need textbooks for school, so it just sounds great. Can you tell us more about it and how you started it and what skills and things you need for that?
Yeah, totally. So the Wordlier, it's a combination of word and the French word for workshop, which is atelier or atelier. So it's like word workshop, and I've actually just recently, as of a few days ago, expanded it from just like a bookstore to a student market. And the idea of this came from seeing people throw out their textbooks at the end of the semester. I started the business in the middle of the spring semester with the idea that I had a lot of used books because I'm a reader too, and I just have way too many books that are now collecting dust. And as much as I did, I could never throw them out, but I do think that they could have a second life with someone else. And it was hard to find a place where you could do that easily if it wasn't in person. And I just feel like in person, like giving your books in, you're just going to be like, I'll do it later, I'll do it later. And you end up never doing it because you have to physically go. So based off of that idea, I made the Wordlier, but then towards the end of the semester when we were leaving Paris, because airlines have weight limits, people weren't taking their books with them. They were tossing them right in the trash, not even the recycling bin, the trash. And that was not, that's an issue on a larger scale, like sustainability wise. So I actually expanded the business to trading not just books. It was mostly just novels at first, for like readers, but I changed the shift to students so people can trade books that they've annotated for class, because sometimes you do need an annotated novel for a class. You might end up using those annotations to write an essay. There's used novels, textbooks, which was like the main thing being tossed out because they weigh a lot, and notes as well as stationery, just everything that a student typically uses. I feel like a lot of these things can be exchanged. So based off of the idea of giving these things like a second life, because I see myself just collecting them in the corner, sometimes throwing them out. I see it around me as well at the end of every semester, every school year. So I wanted to like create a place where we could do that together at the same time, because there's Chegg for notes, and then there's different places for textbooks. There's different places for books. There's people who have their little bookshops on like Etsy, but it doesn't seem like there's one place where everyone can just do everything. That's just meant for students, and their supplies. And we definitely require a lot of supplies, especially in college when like the semesters change classes every 4 months. And right now in the summer semester, I'm doing the summer semester, so the classes change every 6 weeks. It's just a lot of material changing and being like idle all the time. So for that, I created like this online marketplace where students all around the United States, just the US for now, could do their exchange. And I definitely also want to expand it into, creating like tote bags and things that we can use to store these materials. I feel like tote bags are just so like, everyone's using them now. I definitely use them for class. So I have a lot of future ideas for the business as well. And now that I'm here in New York, I feel like this is like a great place for an idea like this to take off. So I guess you also asked about skills. I suppose with skills, it's just having social media literacy is really important. I've been doing social media work since I believe 10th grade in high school, and with a nonprofit organization. And now I'm a media major. So it definitely helps that I've been involved in media, but that's like one of my biggest skills, to be able to make posts and use keywords, use hashtags, know what time of day is the peak for Instagram or TikTok, and just knowing marketing on social media, because that's definitely the best way to market.
Yeah, that all sounds really great. I'm sure when I'm a college student, I would love to have a platform like that to use. Now just to end off, as a bit of a background, the organization that I founded, WASH, the Women's Alliance in STEM and Humanities, our mission is basically to connect younger girls, so think grades like 6 to 10, to these workshops and these mentors and these like videos that teach them more about how they can pursue not only like a specific STEM field, but something else that like something more in social science, something more in humanities, a diverse array of topics instead of just containing themselves to one thing, as we are often kind of told to do by our, our older parents and our older generations. So in the end, do you have any piece of advice for these women moving forward?
Definitely, yeah. I would say it's important to have like hobbies that are just very different from your academic or career goals. So I want to pursue neurosurgery, and I have for years. But I am a media major, and that's because I've always loved graphic design and like just media in general, like history of media and things like that. And I used that to apply to NYU because I decided that's what I wanted to do in college. And then naturally, I kind of found my way back to health by being able to double major in public health. So I feel like if you have a goal in your academic career or your career overall, you're definitely going to be able to reach it, even if you kind of stray just a little bit and delve into something else that you're really interested in. And having other hobbies, even like dance or music, and using that as your major will make you a more diverse human being. Like an example is someone who wants to be a physician, and I know that medical school requires a lot of extracurriculars and whatnot. You can be an EMT on the side, which I am. I am an EMT, but you can also have like take dance classes and get credit for them. And it doesn't make a difference at the end of the day. Medical schools don't really care what major you were, and they actually prefer if you were something that wasn't biology. So I highly recommend like taking hobbies and turning them into your academic career. And that's one of the easiest way to diversify yourself and also have like a lot of fun with your college work. So you're not, dreading every class or every test.
I really love that advice, like taking your hobbies and making something more. So overall, thanks so much for coming on here and just teaching us way more about your life and how to pursue similar goals. Just to end it off, this is our one of our last episodes of Dear Wash before we end off these and summer courses. So we hope you enjoyed this and bye from Wash. Thanks.